You wanted the best. You've got the best podcast. The hottest podcast in the world. The Chris Voss Show, the preeminent podcast with guests so smart you may experience serious brain bleed. The CEOs, authors, thought leaders, visionaries, and motivators. Get ready. Strap yourself in. Keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because you're about to go on a monster education roller coaster with your brain. Now, here's your host, Chris Voss.
I'm Moses Voss here from theChrisVossShow.com. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Our latest things that makes it official. We are going on our 17th year now, and what is it? We've got over 2,100 episodes you can find on the Chris Voss Show. As always, the CEOs, the billionaires, the White House presidential advisors, the Pulitzer Prize winners, all the brilliant journalists, all the great book authors. They come on and share stories, improve your life, get your knowledge base more, because the worst person in the world is the dumbest. I don't know if that's true, but I just made it up. The worst person in the world is probably someone who's evil, so don't be evil. That's the message of the Chris Voss Show. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com/Chris Voss, Chris Voss 1 on the TikTokity, and all those crazy places on the internet. Today we have a wonderful young man on the show with us today. At least that's what his mother told me. We have Joseph Nounou MD, a doctor on the show, and we're going to be talking to him about his insights and his work, et cetera, et cetera. From a young age, Joe, who as a doctor and also as an MBA, possessed an unstoppable possession. I'm going to make a small pause here. We're going to edit that. So Joe, from a young age, was possessed with an unstoppable passion for helping others and a thirst for knowledge. A fifth-grade project on the heart convinced him that a career in medicine was his life's goal, and he went on to graduate from medical school and residency to become an anesthesiologist. It was during this time that he began developing a way for anyone, even those with no medical training, to administer life-saving medication to victims of drug overdoses. I probably need one right now for the amount of coffee and caffeine I've drank. In order to understand the business aspects of getting such a product into the hands of consumers, he attended and graduated with an MBA from the Haslam School of Business at the University of Tennessee. And with his medical business training, as well as the belief that the power to help each other should belong to each of us, he developed the Res Pen, an affordable, accessible way to save lives. Welcome to the show, Joe. How are you?
I'm doing great, Chris. Thank you for having me, and thank you for that fine introduction.
There you go. Well, I just read your bio. I didn't, that or I wholesale made that up. I'll let the audience decide. So give us the .coms, wherever you want people to find you on the interwebs.
So the easiest place to find me is at the aurospharma.com. That's AUROS Pharma, PHARMA.com. On there are some links that'll introduce you to ways that you can contact me. I'm very accessible. Sometimes I get busy like all of us, but want to be reachable to those folks who need to talk and perhaps need help or need direction or want to lend a hand. Want to be part of the mission.
So you actually gave me this cool idea I had with my ramble, my improv ramble that I did. Maybe what I should do on the show is I should read people's bio, and then it's a game to see if the bio is really the person. So you have to listen to the whole show to find out if the bio is truly that person or it's not. Like, is this truly the person or not? You got to watch the show to find out.
I love it.
Yeah, there you go. All right. Well, there we got a new agenda for the show. So, Joe, tell us a 30,000 overview of what you guys do there at Auros Pharma.
Basically, we've focused our energy and our efforts on bringing a new medication to the people who need it most. And this is a medication that will help folks who are not breathing. A lot of times we think about those folks as being victims of drug overdose, but it could also be drowned victims. It could also be cardiac arrest, folks who've just had a heart attack and dropped dead. So we've got this new medication, and we've taken it from infancy, and we've now got positive proof of concept studies that we successfully completed this summer. And we're well on our way to bringing this to market, Lord willing, within the next few years.
Mm-hmm. There you go. And so what is it like? What's a comparative thing in the marketplace that maybe people are familiar with that this product is supposed to improve on?
The closest thing would be Narcan, also known as naloxone, which is the generic. Narcan It's a nasal spray. You can get it over the counter now, which I think is fantastic, and it saved a lot of lives over the years. Narcan works when you squirt it in the victim's nose, and that blocks the opiates that are circulating in the victim's system that prevents them from breathing.
Mm.
The problem is a lot of times people have overdosed on a non-opiate, heavy tranquilizer, sometimes veterinary tranquilizers, and sometimes just massive doses of fentanyl. And the Narcan doesn't work at all for that.
Oh, really?
And sometimes, yeah, it doesn't, which is crazy. And we don't talk about it enough. But the reality is we don't have anything better. And that's where RS Pharma comes in with the Respen.
And I imagine, I think I've seen like even billboards where are these the pens that people carry around, or are they the ones more for diabetics? Where you jam it in the leg?
So, it could be for diabetes. I'm not sure which billboards you're referring to.
Yeah.
This
Either one.
this product that we're talking about today, it's not currently on the market. We've got these proof of concept studies. We still got to go through the FDA process, which we expect will take less than 3 years.
Oh, really? They got it
Yeah.
sped up there at the old
Yes.
FDI.
Good for you for noticing that. So actually,
FDA?
typically the FDA requires it takes about 7 years to get it through regulatory processes and clinical trials. However, the FDA does have a fast track designation that is reserved for medications like ours that have already proven to be safe and are of high need and presents a low risk to the population. Those medications are sometimes given a fast track designation that can get them through the clinical trials in about 2 years. So we'll say 2 to 3.
That's pretty awesome. I guess it's very different than like a drug developing
No,
drugs for patients. Oh, they can
no,
still do it fast.
this is drug development. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Okay.
when they developed, whenever they develop emergency medications, they put the priority on it.
Okay.
So if you've got a new medication that makes your eyelashes longer, the FDA will be a little bit slower on that, especially if it's a new molecule. Maybe it'll cause blindness in the long term and things like that. But with certain medications that meet the criteria that our medication does, they allow the drug development to take place more quickly.
There you go. I like that.
Thanks.
We're developing here at the Chris Voss Show a drug to try and end stupid people, and not in probably the end most people want, but that's not right, Chris. But so what we do is we pay Mike Tyson to punch people in the face that are just really stupid, and we're gonna hire him to go all over the tour all over the nation. It's a lot of work. I'm not sure.
That's
How it's
awesome.
going to turn out. But if you ever think about that as a side pen where you can just, I don't know, jam it in their leg or they can, snort it through the nostrils, it's a good idea, I think.
I'll give that some thought, Chris, and
Yeah,
I'll put
yeah.
your name on it. We'll call it the Voss pen or something.
The Tyson bite, call it that. Uh,
Good stuff.
I bring that up because Friday's the big thing, and I'm just excited to see him do his work. So what tell us about your life, how you grew up, in your words. Like what got you interested in getting involved in the field you did, becoming a doctor? I mean, not everybody can do that. Like I can't stand blood, so I just can't ever be a doctor.
It's a really interesting question, Chris, and I'd have to say that I've always been into science. In fact, I remember being 7 years old. My mom asked me what I wanted to be when I grow up, and I said, "What do you call somebody who does science all day?" And she said, "A scientist." And I'm like, "Well, that's it. That's what I want to do."
Oh, wow.
And from there, it blossomed into medicine. You kind of touched on my experience in the fifth grade doing a project on the heart. Thought, wow, this is really cool.
Mhm.
And I did have the fortune of having a grandfather who was a general practitioner. He graduated in the 40s before penicillin was even invented. So he practiced medicine in a very different time than what
Wow.
we are living in today.
Can you
And
imagine?
it's wild. And some of the stories he told me about how they treated infection, I'll just tell you, shots
I
of
imagine they use a
mercury.
lot of sawing, maybe. I don't know.
They gave shots of arsenic and mercury in
Oh,
the hiney,
yeah.
and that's just heavy metal poisoning will definitely destroy
Arsenic.
arsenic and mercury. Wild stuff.
Yeah. My wife puts that in my coffee every morning. It's
How
great.
does it taste? I've never tasted it.
I can't taste it anymore. My tongue
No.
is mostly melted away. And
It must be working.
And I'm not even married. That's the weird part. But evidently it's working because I think I am.
I love it. That's great.
Oh,
Anyways, so I'll just continuing on. So I graduated. When I graduated college, I went on to medical school with the intention of becoming a cardiologist. Decided I really didn't want to go down the road of cardiology because it requires a 3-year stint in internal
oh.
medicine, which is not something that interested me. Really loved
Plus you
surgery.
probably
Huh?
hate people's lungs. Do you hate people's lungs? Is that why?
No, no, no. I don't hate anything.
I'm just
I'm a
kidding.
pretty loving
I'm
guy. I
just
know.
kidding. I had to
I
do.
know you
You
are.
know, we do the cardio jokes here on the show. So
Yes. No, we hear a lot about that at cardiologists and the pulmonologists butting heads. So
yeah.
there's definitely truth in that. Ended up going into surgery for a couple years before I realized that those folks basically lived at the hospital and really didn't know what to do, to be honest. And was talking to one of the anesthesiologists I was working with as a resident, and he's like, this is a great field. And we kind of talked about it for a while and decided that I was going to give it a go. And by grace of God, I just, fell in love with it. It's been a fantastic experience. And it was actually in my training that
hmm
I learned about these mechanisms that some medications have that cause people to breathe directly from the brainstem, goes down to
hmm
the lungs, and it basically has the ability to revive people. And that's how I
Wow.
got to be here.
And they'll save people from death because I mean, do you have numbers on the deaths of people that your res pen will save?
Yeah, it's a really good point, Chris. So when you just looking at drug overdose victims, we lose about 300 people a day. It's 107,000
Holy
people a
crap!
year. It's
Wow,
wild. It's a whole jumbo jet full of people every single day, and nobody really pays it much mind because it's just the baseline. It's what we have.
that's unfortunate.
And the reality is that the Narcan nasal sprays isn't able to help at least half those people
Oh,
because of the
really?
dose of fentanyl or the fact that they've overdosed on a non-opiate.
hmm
So those people at the very least will be able to reach. In my mind, we'll be able to save the better portion of those 107,000 people. And really it's going to depend on people actually having the medication on hand, which is why it's so important to us to keep it accessible and affordable so
hmm
that it is where it needs to be. The
hmm
second area where this medication is really going to prove its worth is in people who have cardiac events, people who drop dead of a heart attack out in public. Believe
Oh,
it or
like me,
not,
probably
Lord
eventually.
willing, not. I hope not. Gosh, Chris. Um, so it turns out that 350,000 people die outside of the hospital every year from sudden cardiac arrest.
Wow.
And the reality is that we don't have a current method to help these people breathe before the rescue squad gets there. We teach doing chest compressions, the CPR,
CPR. Yeah.
and right,
hmm
and then the ambulances are on their way. And even if they're quick, it still takes them a good 5 minutes to get there. And
Oh yeah.
oftentimes, you're looking at 15, 20, 30 minutes.
Yeah.
So in that period of time, the brain will die. The brain only lives for about 5 to 8 minutes without oxygen. Really starts dying in about five
Mm.
minutes. So
I
really
know
after
people that's brain died with oxygen.
it's wild, right? And
Yeah, but you
you
mostly
see them
see
on
them on
TV,
like Twitter and X and stuff.
and a
I know
lot
what
of
they're
them, yeah, a lot of them on the social
social
medias too.
media. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
a riot.
So the idea is that if these devices were available in public areas or in the homes of people who are at high risk or have family members at high risk, then
hmm
if somebody does have a cardiac event, you could treat them with this medication, and that would increase their survival from almost zero
hmm
to, we don't have numbers, but it would be significantly higher. We would save tens of thousands of lives. And that doesn't even take into account the 15 million people who die every year in hospitals. So we
Whoa.
expect that it would actually reduce the mortality. Only, I think it's like 1 out of 8
hmm
um, end up leaving the hospital after a cardiac event. So if we can increase that number to 1 out of 10, that 15 million cardiac event number, you'd make a pretty good dent in it. So we'd
That
save a
would be
lot of people.
awesome. That would
Yeah.
be
So we could save
awesome.
millions of lives.
Yeah, and loved ones. There's people that are going through all sorts of things, but yeah, I mean that's one thing I always worried about. I think my mom always worries about, and she's 82. Is you have a sudden event, and you either can't, you're either alone, or or maybe, people can't, the ambulance can't get to you in time. I've seen people that have had car accidents that, you know, even then they still can't get to the hospital quickly because they have to stabilize them, and then they have to wait for a life flight, and
Yeah.
there's a lot of time that's lost. It seems like forever.
Yeah.
And wow, only 8 minutes to save the brain. Yeah, it's scary out there. My dad had a stroke one time in front of me. Would it help for strokes and stuff like that? Because guess that's more in the brain, right?
Yeah, so strokes are in the brain, and yeah, the question that I would turf back to you is, did the stroke affect their breathing? Neuroscience is a part of medical school, but it's not my
Hmm.
area of specialty. I think usually when folks have a stroke, they're still able to breathe.
Yeah.
So I don't know that that would be as much of a benefit. But if you imagine a scenario where somebody just doesn't have, is not making enough respiratory effort,
Hmm.
these are the people that would most benefit from this medication.
There you go. The fentanyl crisis is out of control, and there's so much of it, and it's in like a lot of stuff from what I understand. Like they put in all the other drugs people do, and so you can just be thinking you're going to smoke a joint, and there's some fentanyl in there,
Yeah,
and I saw this, I think it was 60 Minutes or something. They had a thing, and they showed like how much fentanyl can kill you in a powder form. It was in a little vial, and I was just like, holy crap, that looks like that's how
it's
much
nothing.
coffee I have in the morning.
Yeah, the way I would encourage people to visualize it is if you take a maximum strength Tylenol and you cut it up into 1,000 pieces.
What?
Just one of those pieces would be enough to kill a child or an older person, and two
Oh,
of those pieces would kill everybody else. What the people who aren't opiate
yeah,
used to opiates, which is most people.
yeah.
But add three or four of those 1,000th of a Tylenol pieces, and you're gonna even kill the others. It's awful. It's just so
Yeah.
strong.
We've lost so many great people. I mean, every person is great, really. I mean, I'm not saying some people are better, but Tom Petty, Prince. There's a lot of amazing artists that have died of
Yeah.
fentanyl abuse and
Yeah, it
overdose.
affects the entirety of the socioeconomic scale, the very rich and the very poor and everybody in between. It affects the young and the old.
Mm-hmm.
It affects men and women, men more than women. But
Hmm.
we had a 4-month-old not too far from where I live here in Tennessee who died because her parents were using and they had fentanyl on their hands. And when they
Hmm.
picked her up, enough of it got absorbed and she died. So it's these
Wow.
tragedies that are absolutely preventable, that really give me the inspiration and the motivation to keep going.
Now, on your website, you have several different things. You have pipeline impact and investors. Talk to us about what you're wanting listeners to hear out there, get involved with, maybe invest, et cetera, et cetera.
So I would encourage anybody listening who shares our passion for improving the lives of those around us and giving another chance to folks who have experienced drug overdoses
Hmm.
to reach out to us, reach out to perhaps their state representative, their congressman,
Hmm.
and say, you know, make them aware of the work that we're doing. We're relatively small fish, and they have lots of people going to Washington. We got lobbyists, we've got folks on commercials, on TV, on commercials that are, they really, the reality is that there really are so many voices that are vying for attention. And the reality is that we have a life-saving medication that really could use some political backing
Mm.
and really could use a quality partner in the pharmaceutical industry, somebody who says, you know what, we're going to help that guy save these millions of lives. We've got the know-how, we've got the resources, and we're going to make that happen. And honestly, that would be a beautiful story for them
Mm.
and for the entirety of society. We think about drugs and overdoses and cardiac events. Just think in the United States, all these
Hmm.
numbers we talked about are just in the U.S. The reality is this is happening worldwide. I mean, there are tons of people we could save, and we could do it together.
Yeah. There's one of my friends had been dating a guy, and she didn't know that he had a fentanyl or a drug problem. They were just starting to date, and she died in his home. She
Oh
found
my
him, of
goodness.
course, sadly after he quit breathing for a long time, and that was over. But in that case, if she'd found him in time, like, she really struggles with just the guilt of it and the fact that he died in her home, it's kind of really harsh to have that memory. But yeah, do you guys have some online communities that you're doing, or outreach? I guess people contact you and you'll give them the lowdown.
Yeah, so the best place to reach us is on our website, rospharma.com, but also we do have a Facebook page, Instagram, LinkedIn that we recently started. So there's not a whole lot of activity on there yet. We literally just started that this month. We've been focusing on the science part of things because that's got to come first. But now that we've got these positive proof of concept studies, we would love to have the involvement, awareness, and participation of anybody interested.
There you go. And on the investors tab, are you looking for a certain type of investor, a certain net worth or investment? Are you looking for accredited investors, or just anyone is open to everyone?
So it's really open to everyone, but I'll be honest with you. The majority of the folks I encounter, they want to invest. Obviously different degrees depending on their financial position. And the reality is that the sort of investment we would require to make a positive impact really ought to come from a partnering pharmaceutical company. I'm not saying that's the only way forward, but I would love, I really think a partnership would be the best way to go. If that doesn't come through, I'd say in the next 6 months, then we will be reaching out for what we call Series A money, where we basically use investor funds to start doing our clinical trials on our own, and we'll do it without a partnership. We just think it'd be faster with a partnership. That's why I want to go that route, because time is life.
Yeah, and time is money too. It takes a bit to develop these drugs.
Yeah,
And, you guys have been doing this for how many years now to develop this?
3.5 years.
There you go. It's amazing. I'm glad they do things earlier. I guess I don't know where I got some of my data that it takes a long time to do drugs anymore. But
No, you're not wrong. So we
mhm.
actually we used a very carefully contemplated strategy to reduce the time that it would take to bring this drug to market. So you're absolutely right. From the time that an organization starts on a mission until the time that the drug reaches the market, you're easily looking at 10 years. Easily. We're going to be able to get that down to about 6.
Wow.
And we've done that because of our strategy, and honestly because, call it luck, call it divine intervention. We have hit on everything we've gone for. Every time we hit a roadblock, we pivot and we're like, this is even better. And
Yeah.
it's just been fascinating to go through this experience and watching this product unfold. We've gotten a ton of advice and help from folks in the industry, and we've really we the success we've seen in 3.5 years is very uncommon. So you're
Wow.
not wrong, Chris.
That's great. That's great.
It is.
And so I know there's prospectuses and legal financial details, and there's some things you can or can't promise. Is there any sort of promise return on investment that you can discuss? Or
Yeah,
I
yeah, I
know,
can discuss
yeah.
that. What we've done so far with the investors that we've partnered with is a convertible note, which is basically an agreement to pay back at an interest rate. The interest
Mhm.
rate we have currently right now is 6%, which is it's pretty consistent with the market for this sort of thing. And what that does is it continues to accrue and then becomes payable when the product is licensed or any assets are divested. And with that, they can either take their 6%, or they can apply their invested funds plus the 6%, and then buy shares at today's value. So let's say, for example, this this event takes place in 3 years, and now they're in a position where they can either take 6% of their return, or as a return, or they can take that money and buy shares with it. And the shares, we sold it at a rate of just $1 a share. And we'll say, it's very conceivable that this could turn to $50 to $100 a share, but without splits, just kind of, just drawing a straight line. So that at that same time period, somebody who's invested, $100, they'll have whatever that $10,000 at that point. And so
Wow.
they can say, all right, so they'll take the $100 after a year, it's 106, and now they can buy 106 shares and then turn around and sell them for $10,000 basically.
Oh, there you go.
So that's how we've done it.
Yeah, that's a good way to do it. So, did they ever fully own an interest in the company? That I mean, like a stock where
Yeah.
it can just keep going up? Then, yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, they're certainly welcome to.
Mm-hmm.
So what at that event where they say, okay, well, we've now licensed this this property, and they now have the option of buying those shares and keeping them. I mean, you don't have to buy them and sell them. A lot of people will keep the shares and and let it grow as the company grows. So that's entirely up to the investor.
Ride the tiger, ride the tide,
Yeah,
and you're saving people's lives. So
it's a beautiful thing.
it's a beautiful thing, and you can do different stuff there. I think this is excellent. I mean, I hope I never have to be in a situation where I've got to revive somebody, but new life saving innovations. It's just crazy. 2020 accidental drug overdoses killed more than 90,000 people, including adults and children, and usually with legally obtained medication. That's kind of interesting. Legally obtained
Hmm.
medications.
Yeah,
So
Prince,
mm-hmm,
Heath Ledger,
mm-hmm.
I think Brittany Murphy. I know she had pneumonia, but I don't know if drugs were involved with her too.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot. People don't think about it, but you can take the wrong combination of drugs, and maybe you chase it down with a swig of, Jack, and you
Wow.
just don't wake up.
You just don't wake up. Crazy, man. So one of the aspects of it is it doesn't have exposed needles and no medical training required. That reminds me of the scene in Pulp Fiction. It's like you have to jam it into her heart with all your might, and you're just like what? So I imagine this eases that sort of anxiety and concern and application, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, and basically it would be in the shoulder, like an deltoid. You just kind of go up to them, and then you just hit the button, and it goes chunk chunk, and then they
Wow.
have a dose, and it starts working in between about a minute, minute and a half.
Wow. Save a life, save a brain.
Yeah.
Can we get this distributed across social media? I know some people that need to get some oxygen to their brains.
Yeah, that's what we should do. We should have a sponsorship. I'm sponsoring you to just dose yourself, save your brain.
Save them. I'll just hand them out at events. I'll be like, you need this. I can tell.
That's
So
awesome.
there you go. Anything more we haven't touched on or covered that you'd like people to know about you guys and how to get
I,
involved?
th- I think the main thing I'd like for folks to know is that we really, you'll hear all the time, pharmaceutical companies, yada yada. They've got kind of a bad um, a bad reputation that they've earned along the way. Not saying they're all bad, certainly, but the reality is that we have a lot of folks who don't trust the pharmaceutical industry, and then
Mm,
they have a poor perception of them. I would encourage them to, instead of looking at this as a pharmaceutical company, look at this as a mission. We are here to deliver a medication. We have to give the company a name, and I would applaud anyone who has the ability to partner with us and pick this up and help us cross the finish line with it. You'll have a place in history.
there you go. There you go. You can make a difference in the world because that's
Amen.
what's important. And, saving lives. I mean, lives are, I've seen a lot of people that have come back from drug overdoses and addiction, and they lead great lives. They're sober, and, they struggle every day. I think, who's the Iron Man gentleman? I forget the actor who, he struggles with addiction, and it's a daily fight for these folks. Every day
Yeah,
they
it
wake
really
up
is.
and they have to battle the addiction, and I've seen addiction at work. It can be an ugly thing, and it
Yeah.
can make people lose everything, lose their life, lose their money, and of course these are people that are loved ones. So final pitch out as we go out for people to get involved. Tell them how they can reach out to you, how they can handshake and get involved in the program, and the .com.
Sounds good. So it's aurospharma.com, AUROSPHARMA. On the website, you can find out a little bit more about our mission and what we're working on. You can also find ways to contact us and reach us. And we encourage you to check us out on social media, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and hopefully be able to work with folks to be able to save lives.
There you go. Well, thank you very much for coming on the show, Joe. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Chris. You're a great guy.
There you go. And I'm going to wait to have my first heart attack until you get this pen developed so you can save
Wait
me.
as long as you can. I think that's good advice for anybody.
I'm definitely going to wait. Thank you. You hear that, buddy? You better wait. Anyway, thanks for tuning in to my audience. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com/Chris Voss, Chris Voss1 on the TikTokity, and all those crazy places on the internet. Be good to each other. Stay safe. We'll see you next time, and keep breathing.